friends, thanks for joining me today. This is going to be my May monthly wrap-up. It's been a pretty busy month for me. I have been busy with some stuff at work, and I went on a camping trip one weekend, and the weekend before that I went to Melanie Martinez's trilogy tour in Seattle, and I am wearing the tour tee that I got there. Super awesome, amazing concert. But yeah, it's been kind of a busy month, but I still have managed to read quite a lot. Read some audiobooks and some books on my Kindle. So let's just go ahead and get into the books I read this month. I did try to read, it ended up happening more towards the end. I did try to read books in the theme of Fae May, trying to kind of get through some of the backlog of books about Fae that I've kind of been holding because I wanted to kind of save it for May and springtime. So I did get to some of those. So let's go ahead and get into all the books that I read in May. So started off the month strong with The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, narrated by Jessica Whittaker. This is the first book of the Library trilogy, which is an adult fantasy. And we have Lavira, a girl who is an outsider brought in as an apprentice librarian in this enormous kind of otherworldly library. And then we have Ivar, who is was born and raised in the library and is trapped there with his siblings. And their journeys are kind of interwoven through time. And this was a 4.5 star. I was worried that the setting would feel corny, but it was actually really incredible. Definitely the setting was the highlight of this year, or of the book for me, and there's just so much to the library. It's kind of like the TARDIS from Doctor Who, bigger on the inside, and the characters are also interesting. I enjoyed all the characters, and the way that things slowly get revealed was very rewarding and fascinating, and I hope that the rest of the series is good as the first one. I wasn't the biggest fan of Mark Lawrence's Book of the Ancestor trilogy on the whole, but I'm glad that I decided to give him another shot because this was very good. Three Dark Crowns by Kendare Blake. This is the first book in a fantasy series about these three sister queens who, when they turn 16, have to attempt to kill each other so that only one of them becomes the true queen of their nation. And two of the sisters have to hide the fact that they haven't manifested their powers, which are the powers of, there's a poisoner, a naturalist, and elemental powers, and the two sisters with no powers are the poisoner and the naturalist, but the third sister is a very powerful elemental. And I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. It started out very strong. I was drawn in right away by the introduction of the sisters, who are each very different, and it has dark vibes, which I enjoy. But after that, most of the book is really slow and boring, except for the very, very end where it does pick up and get really intense. And this whole book is just set up for the year where they will actually start to try and kill their sisters. That actually doesn't happen in this book. Presumably that's what the next book will be about, but I'm not sure if the strong start and intriguing ending really makes up for the slog of the middle. And there were just some other things that I didn't really enjoy, like the way the dialogue was written, just wasn't a fan. And I'm not sure if I'll continue the series or not. Probably not. This is the first book that I finished this month, and the longer I've been distanced from it, I haven't really thought about it since, so I don't think I'll be continuing. Nona the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This is the third book in the Locked Tomb fantasy sci-fi series, and each book so far has been wildly different from the others, but the first book, called Gideon the Ninth, is about a necromancer named Harrow and her sword-wielding cavalier named Gideon, who are trying to make Harrow into a super powerful lictor while competing against these 8 other ancient houses. And this series has been a very unique kind of bumpy ride for me, but this one was a 4.5 star. This book focuses on a girl named Nona, who is very sweet and innocent. I loved her. This was very enjoyable and cute, mildly confusing, as to be expected at this point from this author, but this series is very epic in like some of the things that are going on. It's just pretty wild, and there is one more book that's being written now, and at this point I'm just dying to know how this is all going to end. So obviously really cannot say much about what's going on here. There's some political stuff going on, but a lot of it is spoilers for the rest of the series. So really enjoyed it. Can't wait to read Alecto the Ninth, which is the 4th book. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and I did listen to the audiobook of this. I have the physical copy though, narrated by Rachel Delude, and this is a very character-driven sci-fi following the multi-species crew of the ship called the Wayfarer, and their job is to basically create tunnels throughout space to assist in interstellar travel. And this book follows this motley crew of spacers on their way to a tunneling job. It's a lot of conversations and world building and feel-good talk. So you know how, cozy fantasy is a thing now? Well, this is cozy sci-fi. And I'm giving it like a 3.75 star. I thought that it was very cute. It was very feel-good, but to me, it did come across as trite sometimes, like I was a child being given a lecture about, how you should accept people for who they are and how it's okay to feel negative emotions and stuff like that. And I would just rather have those lessons be more integrated into the story than they were. So I did enjoy this. It was cute. I'm not sure if I'm going to read the other books in this series. I believe it takes place, same world and some similar characters, but I think it's kind of like an anthology series. I think you do want to maybe read them in order, but I have the second book. I found them both used, but I don't know yet if I'm going to be continuing. The Humans by Matt Haig. I did listen to the audiobook for this, so it was narrated by Mark Meadows, and the story is that this professor, Andrew Martin, has solved this major mathematical problem that will change humanity and allow for all of these advancements, but these aliens learn about the discovery and are just like, humans are definitely not ready for this knowledge. We have to kill this guy and get rid of any and all evidence of his discovery because humanity is not ready for what this means. So you follow this alien disguised as Andrew as he observes humanity and tries to complete his mission, but he's also starting to catch feelings for Andrew's wife and son. And this was a 4.5 star. It had me chuckling aloud. It's full of British humor, and it's ultimately hopeful and appreciative of humans and humanity, from a very detached alien's point of view. And it's how it's just amazing that we exist at all, despite our flaws. It's very enjoyable, not a very long read. Do recommend this. The audiobook was great. And Matt Haig's most popular book is The Midnight Library, which you might have heard of if you haven't heard of The Humans. And I own that, haven't read it yet. The Humans came out in 2013, so it's older. The Midnight Library came out in 2020, so I'm curious to see how that compares to this. I really did enjoy this though, so I'm looking forward to reading that one. And this was it was very charming, very nice, and I enjoyed it. Middlegame by Seanan McGuire. This is about two siblings, Roger and Dodger, who were created by an alchemist. And Roger has a mastery over words and language, and Dodger has mastery over math. And their creator wants to cultivate and use their powers to essentially become a god and control the world. So you follow the siblings as they grow up and interact with each other and learn what they can do, and eventually they have to fight for their lives. And this was like a 2.5 out of 5. My issues with this are definitely subjective. If you like dramatic and wordy prose, you might enjoy this a lot more. I saw someone describe the writing as over-metaphored and overworked, and that just perfectly describes this, and that is not my style at all. The alchemy magic was all, it was very esoteric, like the rules, are barely there. They're not meant to be super important, so I get it, but I don't really like that, and I think that this was like 200 pages too long. I don't think that I jive well with Seanan McGuire's writing style. At this point, I've read several books by her from different series. It's just like too much for me. I liked Roger and Dodger as characters. I liked that this was so focused on sibling bonds and love, not focused on romantic love. And this is one of those instances where I really don't think that this book was bad. It was just so not for me. I wanted it to be over for so much of it. Definitely going to be unhauling this one, but again, you might enjoy it. I don't think it was a bad book, just not for me. And now I'm finally getting to the Fae books that I read this month in May. So we have The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I finally did it, a staple of YA Fae fantasy. And this is about a human girl named Jude who is forcibly taken with her two sisters from our world to be raised in the land of Elfheim after her parents are murdered. And she has to use her wits and determination to survive in this hostile realm surrounded by Fae who look down on her and are just terrible to her. And she gets involved in court politics as the current king is preparing to abdicate the throne. She has to ally with someone who she despises and who despises her. And this was a 4.5 star. I really enjoyed it. It's very different from Sarah J. Maas's style. I love that the Fae, again, personal taste, I've said this so many times at this point about like SJM's writing, personal preference. I love that the Fae here do not snarl and growl and talk about their mates. Like this just felt much more like traditional kind of scary trickster Fae, which I love. I think I would have liked and appreciated more world building, but I enjoyed the setting and the characters as they were. It just felt very earthy and nature leaning, and it had a dark feel that surprised me. Jude was a great heroine. I was also pleasantly surprised that there was hardly any romance here. Maybe in future books, I'm sure it's coming in future books. There is an enemies to lovers situation, that feels genuine to me. I really like when the enemies part of that trope is strong, and that's how it felt here. I'm very glad that I enjoyed this. Looking forward to seeing the drama unfold in the next book. Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown. This is a dystopian urban fantasy series where our world has been invaded by the Fae and humanity is in constant conflict with them for supremacy and survival. And the main character, Brexley, is captured by the Fae and sent to this infamous prison that's full of humans and Fae, and she has to survive there. And she also feels a pull that she can't explain to the most dangerous prisoner of all, who is a guy named Warwick Farkas. And I gave this a 3.5 star. This is a smutty series, but the smut is oddly lacking in this book. Like, I don't love smut, but I still like to try these kind of books out to see if I can find one that I really enjoy. But there is actually zero sex in this, which is, it's just weird. It's a weird vibe. There's a lot of watching the main character getting the crap beaten out of her, and it's not a fun time. Personally, it's nearly just like torture porn, basically. And yet I was able to take the story and characters like maybe a little bit more seriously because of the weird mix of elements at play and the lack of smut. You'll have to wait, I'm assuming, for book 2 for that to actually start. And the situation between Brexley and Warwick is weird. I'm not invested enough to continue, I don't think, but I mean, I don't know, this was okay. And I finished the month on a very high note. I do own this physically, but I listened to the audio version of An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This is about a girl named Isabel, who is a very talented portrait artist, and many of her customers are fair folk. And she gets in trouble when she sees human sorrow on the face of the Prince of the Autumn Court named Rook, and it shows in the portrait that she paints of him. And to the fair folk, that is a weakness, and she is taken away by Rook to face punishment for what she's done. But things go sideways on the way. Something bad is affecting the different fairylands, and the feelings between Isabel and Rook start to grow. And this shocked me by being amazing and exactly what I was hoping to find by reading fae books in May. The fairies here are dangerous, unpredictable, they're tricksters making bad deals, and like, they're so perfect to my favorite flavor of fae, even more so than The Cruel Prince, like by far. This was fast-paced and also short. It's only like 300 pages, and it has some awesome action scenes. I loved the characters. I enjoyed the romance, even if it was insta-lovey. Check out my review, like where I gush about it. This was a 5-star. Like, it wasn't a flawless book in terms of being like the most well put together plot and setting, but I just personally loved it. It felt like a fairy tale, and this is the closest that any book has gotten to having my favorite kind of fae since I read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke like a decade ago. So yeah, this came out of nowhere. I loved this. So those are all of the books that I read in May. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of like those fae books, or, and I think I've asked this before, but if you have suggestions for books with fae that are less of the Sarah J. Maas, you know, sexy, growling, that kind of fae, and more like Holly Black's kind of fae, where they're dangerous. They might be beautiful, but they're dangerous, and they just have kind of a more classic, whimsical fairy tale foreboding feel. Let me know down below. I'm not sure exactly what kind of stuff I'm going to be reading in June. It'll be a mix of spring and summer. So I might try and read like a couple more fae books. Yeah, I don't really necessarily have anything specific on my mind of what I should be reading, but I have a whole bunch of great books, and I've really been enjoying borrowing books from my library on my Kindle, including audiobooks. So that's why I have some books physically, but I read them on audiobook because I bought them physically with the plan to read them physically, but checking them out at my library, I realized, oh hey, they have the audiobook for free. So that's why I've been listening to some of them, even though I own them already physically. So that's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I've been just getting a lot of reading done, even though May was very busy for me, and we'll see what June brings. So thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I didn't sound too nasally or anything. I feel like it's happening now. Allergies have been so bad this year. This month, last month, around where I live, the pollen and just the dust, it's just been really hectic and horrible. So congestion has been bad. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!